The tedious lives of Roman road builders, boring history for sleep. Let your mind drift back nearly 2,000 years, to a time when the world's most formidable empire stretched across the hills of Italy, the forests of Gaul, the deserts of North Africa, and far beyond. It is early morning, somewhere along the dusty edge of a Roman province. In the pale dawn light, the figures of dozens of men slaves, soldiers, and hired laborers assemble with little fanfare. Today, like every day, they will build the roads that stitch an empire together. For these workers, glory is not a reward, tedium is. The life of a Roman road builder is one of repetitive, exhausting labor. Breakfast, if it can be called that, is a chunk of bread, a sip of thin wine, perhaps a handful of olives or dried figs if you are lucky. The foreman, often a stern centurion, shouts orders. Everyone knows their task. Some dig, others gather stones. Still others heave wooden rollers or tamp down earth with heavy wrap. The process is slow, deliberate, and seldom changes from one side to the next. Roman roads are famous for their straightness and their endurance, but these virtues are hard-won. The route must be surveyed carefully, marked out with wooden poles and measuring cords. Engineers check levels with water-filled troughs, ensuring every rise and fall serves the needs of both the marching legions and the ox-drawn carts that will soon follow. The first step is digging a trench, sometimes nearly a meter deep, sometimes shallower. The earth is heavy and often full of roots and stones. Men work side by side, sweat mixing with dust as shovels bite into the ground. When the trench is deep enough, it is lined with large rocks, sometimes scavenged from ruined buildings or quarries miles away, sometimes hacked from nearby outcrops by other teams of laborers. These foundation stones form the base, the first layer in the empire's long-lasting web. Above the foundation, a layer of smaller stones or gravel is poured and pounded down. Oxen drag rollers back and forth, smoothing the surface, while men, with baskets, fetch and spread more material. This middle layer is crucial. To loose, and the road will sag too tight and water will pool, cracking the surface in the winter cold. Finally, the surface layer is added, flat paving stones as large as a man's torso and twice as heavy, cut and shaped to fit with a mason's eye for detail. The work is painstaking. Each stone must be levered into place with wooden poles, then adjusted again and again to ensure a snug fit. The smallest gap can mean years shaved from a road's life. So patience and precision are the order of the day. Breaks are rare and brief. At midday, a horn sounds and the men sit together in the dust, chewing stale bread or salted fish and sharing a cup of sour wine. Laughter is uncommon, conversation subdued. The work is repetitive, and the days blend into one another week after week, mile after mile. Yet this tedium is vital. The roads the workers build are not just for the legions. They will serve merchants, travelers, messengers, and farmers for generations to come. Every foot of road brings the empire a little closer together, makes tax collection a little easier, or helps an army respond to distant threats with breathtaking speed. As the sun sets, the foreman inspects the day's progress. Sometimes, a section must be pulled up and laid again if it does not meet the strict standard, adding another layer of frustration to an already difficult job. Only when he is satisfied are the tools stacked away and the workers dismissed. They return to their camps or huts, exhausted, muscles aching, hands raw from stone and earth. For most, there is little sense of accomplishment, just the knowledge that tomorrow will bring another stretch to pave, another trench to dig. Yet every mile completed is a quiet victory, even if it goes uncelebrated. But what happens when the weather turns, or when the work brings men into dangerous lands? How do Roman road builders endure hardship, boredom, and the uncertainties of travel far from home? As another gray dawn breaks over the encampment, you find yourself roused not just by the shouts of the foreman, but by the biting chill of a persistent wind. The Roman road, for all its legendary durability, does not yield easily to those who build it. For many workers, slaves, prisoners, conscripted peasants, or even Roman legionaries, the journey is not just a matter of laying stone, but of enduring the relentless discomforts of life on the edge of empire. Weather is the most persistent adversary. In the dry heat of summer, dust cakes your skin, and every mouthful of air seems thick with grit. Shimmers of heat rise from the stone, making the world swim before your eyes. Tools grow blisteringly hot in your hands, and breaks become more precious. You might wet your cap with water from a nearby stream, or steal a moment in the narrow shade of a loaded cart, but it is the wet and cold that truly test resolve. In autumn, rains turn the worksite into a mire. Shovels suck at mud, boots fill with water. The carefully dug trenches collapse, forcing men to redouble their efforts. Stones slip from calloused fingers, and every footstep threatens to send you sprawling. Sometimes, a completed section is washed away overnight, a day's labor erased by the whims of the weather. Grumbling is common, but never loud. The centurion has no patience for complaints. Winter brings its own challenges. Frost stiffens the earth and makes each stone heavier, each tool harder to wield. Fires are lit for warmth, but the smoke stings your eyes and clings to your clothes. Sickness spreads quickly through the camps, coughs, chills, and fevers. Food grows scarcer as supply carts struggle through the muddy ruts. On the harshest days, work halts only briefly, for the road must advance. The farther you are from the center of Roman power, the more precarious life becomes. In the wild, forested provinces or at the edges of conquered territory, the work is often accompanied by a different kind of tension. The road, after all, is a symbol of Roman authority and assertion of control over landscape and people alike. Local tribes may resent the intrusion, and there are stories of ambushes, sabotage, or quiet disappearances in the night. Guards stand watch as laborers toil, always on the lookout for movement in the trees or hills. Even in more peaceful regions, the roadwork brings its share of mishaps. Injuries are common: crushed fingers, broken toes, wrenched backs, and treatment is rudimentary at best. The camp medicus tends wounds with oil, honey, and rough linen, but many heal slowly, if at all. A worker too injured to continue might be sent back to the nearest town, or simply left behind, forgotten as the project moves on. Meals offer little comfort. Bread grows stale, cheese hardens, and salted fish becomes more salt than fish. Occasionally, hunters return with rabbits or wild birds, bringing a rare treat to the campfire. Water is sometimes brackish or drawn from muddy streams. Ale is weak and rarely enough. The camaraderie of shared hardship helps a little men swap stories of distant homelands, lost loves, or days of easier work. Laughter is rare, but not absent. Small rituals, sharpening a tool, patching a tunic, playing dice at sunset, become anchors in a life of repetition. Despite the hardship, the work continues. Each day another stretch is surveyed, dug, filled, and paved. The road grows mile by mile, an unbroken line across hills, rivers, and forests. When the road reaches a milestone, a bridge across a stream, a summit cleared of rock, there is a quiet sense of relief. A tiny ripple of pride among the workers, quickly swallowed by the demands of the next section. Occasionally, an imperial inspector arrives, a stern man in a gleaming toga, flanked by guards and local dignitaries. He measures the width of the road, checks the fit of the stones, and records the project's progress in wax tablets. For a moment, the endless labor is recognized, though rarely rewarded. As night falls and the camp settles into weary silence, the fire's embers glow against the darkness. The sounds of tools are replaced by quiet breathing, the low murmur of conversation, and the distant calls of nightbirds. For these builders, each day's survival is an accomplishment. Each completed mile is a step in a journey that may never be remembered. But what legacy did these tireless workers leave behind? How did their roads change the world for those who followed? And what traces of their toil remain in the landscape of modern Europe? As the years pass and the miles of carefully laid stone extend ever farther, the Roman road builders' world is one of repetition and endurance, but also of unexpected legacy. The men who bent their backs to the empires will rarely left their names for history. They were not commemorated in marble or remembered in poetry, yet their mark remains quiet but indelible on the face of continents for many. The road project ended not with fanfare but with exhaustion. When a road section was finished, some workers moved on to the next stretch or new province, marching alongside their creations, while others melted away into the local villages, seeking new work or rest at last. Few looked back at the ribbon of stone that had consumed years of their lives. For Roman officials, however, every completed road was a triumph of order over chaos, a means of moving armies, goods, and information faster and more reliably than any rival empire could dream. Effects were immediate. Soldiers traveled quickly to distant outposts, carrying orders or reinforcements. Merchants brought olive oil from Spain, glass from the Rhineland, and spices from the east, all moving more swiftly and in greater quantity than ever before. Tax collectors arrived with greater regularity, and provincial governors sent news to Rome that would otherwise have taken weeks longer to arrive. The roads enabled not just trade and communication, but the very idea of a united empire, stretching from rainy Britain to sun-baked Syria. For local people, the arrival of a Roman road was a mixed blessing. Farmers could get their goods to market more efficiently, but they also faced new taxes. Soldiers billeted in their homes, and the imposition of Roman law. Towns and waste stations mentioned sprang up at regular intervals, providing shelter and food for travelers and horses. Many of these settlements evolved into the towns and cities of Europe's modern landscape, their main streets still following the lines laid down by Roman surveyors. Over time, the roads themselves became part of the landscape. Some were carefully maintained for centuries, resurfaced and repaired as new generations of workers took up the tools of their predecessors. Others fell into ruin, battered by weather, neglected as empires rose and fell, or buried beneath new fields and forests. Yet the bones of the old roads endure. In some places, you can walk for miles along the remnants of ancient paving stones, still level after 2 millennia. Elsewhere, a modern highway traces the path set by Roman engineers, the straight line of the past underlying the rush of present-day traffic. The men who built these roads saw little reward in their own time, There were no medals, no monuments to their effort, only the satisfaction sometimes unspoken of having built something that lasted, something that outlived even the mightiest of emperors. The routine of their days, measuring, digging, paving, enduring hardship, became the scaffolding for a world transformed by connection and movement. Their legacy is not just in stone, but in the very shape of Europe. A journey today from London to Rome, from Lyon to Cologne, still follows, in part, the routes etched by hands long forgotten. Each footstep, each rumble of a passing car or train, is a distant echo of those countless days of labor, patience, and persistence. So, as you settle into sleep, picture a starlit camp on the edge of empire where tired men lie beside the silent stones of a newly finished road. Their dreams are simple: rest, warmth, perhaps a gentler tomorrow. Yet their work shaped the world in ways they could scarcely imagine. In the rhythm of their tedium lies a lesson: history is not always written by the bold or the celebrated, but often by the patient, the anonymous, and the enduring.